Here's something wild that nobody's talking about. The people everyone swore would treat Nicolandria the worst are actually the ones showing up for her the hardest. Meanwhile, the ones who were supposed to have her back, they're the ones throwing shade. I'm talking about the recent Huda Beauty event for Nicolandria, and what went down there completely flipped the script on everything we thought we knew about Love Island Season 7. We've got Ace being called out, Taylor getting exposed, and some surprising allies stepping up. The dynamics from Love Island USA are way more complicated than anyone realized, and this dating show drama with Nic and Olandria just revealed who's really real and who's been playing games this whole time. If you want to see me break down more Love Island chaos and call out the nonsense when I see it, hit that subscribe button. Trust me, you'll want to be here when the next mess unfolds. And hey, it's free, so why not? All right, let's get into this. The Huda Beauty Halloween party happened in LA, and it wasn't just some random Love Island reunion situation. This was specifically an event for Nicolandria, hosted by one of her main sponsors. It was invite only, which means they handpicked who could come. Some Love Island cast members got invites, but only the ones who actually support her. This wasn't about the show. This was about celebrating her specifically. Now, why does that matter? Because it immediately tells you who's in her corner and who isn't. You don't get an invite to someone's sponsored event unless you've shown genuine support. This wasn't a contractual obligation or a reunion special where everyone has to show up and play nice. This was real life, and the guest list was intentional. The event itself had that exclusive vibe, the kind where you can actually see who someone surrounds themselves with when there's no cameras forcing interactions. And what we saw there completely contradicted the narrative that's been pushed online about who Nicolandria's real friends are. People have been making assumptions based on political beliefs, based on appearances, based on absolutely everything except the one thing that actually matters, which is how people treat her. And this event, it exposed everything. Let me paint you a picture of what happened. There's this clip going around from the party, and in it, you can see Chelley in a red jacket making his way through the crowd. He's clearly on a mission because he walks straight up to Nicolandria with purpose. Now watch what happens next, because this is where it gets interesting. He leans in and starts speaking to her, but it's soft. You can't hear what he's saying in the video, but you can read the body language clear as day. He's not just making small talk or doing that fake Hollywood air kiss greeting. This man is saying something meaningful to her, and you can tell by the way she's listening. Then she pulls him in for a hug, and I mean a real hug. Not that stiff, pat-on-the-back nonsense you see at industry events. This is genuine. They hold it for a moment, they pull back and talk a little more, and then they hug again. 2 separate hugs in one conversation. Now, I've watched enough interactions to know what I'm looking at here. Chelley came over to give her her flowers. Not literal flowers, but you know what I mean. He was speaking life into her, telling her he supports her, probably reminding her of how far she's come and how proud he is. That's what real friends do. They show up and they remind you of your worth when the world is trying to tear you down. And here's where it gets frustrating. Chelley gets so much hate online. People review Love Island and they always have negative things to say about him. The main reason? His political views. People found out he supports certain candidates and immediately wrote him off as problematic. They decided who he was based on his ballot, not his behavior. But hold on, let's actually look at what he's done. Has he posted anything hateful? Has he said anything disrespectful? Has he shown any behavior that would justify the hate he gets? Because from what I've seen, his actions don't match the story people are telling about him. The thing is, millions of people voted a certain way in 2024, and they're not all the same. You've got people on the extreme end, sure, but you've also got moderates, people who switched parties, people with different reasons for their choices. It's not a monolith. You can't just paint everyone with the same brush and call it a day. And let's be real about something else. A lot of younger voters got heavily targeted by social media campaigns. After the 2020 election, there was a massive push using influencers and content creators to flip younger demographics. A ton of misleading information was spread, and a lot of people made choices based on incomplete or false narratives. That's just facts. But none of that even matters when you look at Charlie's actual behavior. Look at how he treats Nicolandria. Look at that hug. Look at the respect. Does that look like someone with hate in their heart? Actions speak louder than ballots, and his actions have been nothing but supportive. And it's not just this one moment at the party either. Charlie has been standing up for Nicolandria since day one. Remember the Love Island reunion? Because that's when Charlie really showed who he was. At the reunion, Charlie called out Taylor directly. He said that Taylor should have been the one eliminated early on instead of him. Now let me explain why this matters and why Charlie was absolutely right. During the first elimination, where a guy had to go home, it was completely up to the Islanders. There was no public vote. Historically, on Love Island, the person with the weakest romantic connection is supposed to leave. That's how the game works. That's how it's always worked. At that time, Charlie genuinely had a strong connection with Hannah. They were vibing. They were building something. Meanwhile, Taylor was faking his entire relationship with Nicolandria. He admitted later he wasn't attracted to her and was just playing the game to stay in the villa. So, by Love Island rules, by basic logic, Taylor should have gone home. He had the weakest real connection. But the cast that season was being manipulated by certain people, Cuff, Ace, Cuff, and they voted Charlie out instead. It was strategic gameplay that ignored the actual point of the show. Charlie brought this up at the reunion, and he said it with his whole chest. He looked Taylor dead in the face and said Taylor should have been eliminated because it was obvious he wasn't really into Nicolandria. And what did Taylor say in response? Absolutely nothing. He just sat there, because what could he say? Charlie was speaking facts. But Charlie wasn't done. Oh no, he also checked Ace that same night. Charlie called out how Ace was moving in the villa. He said Ace was constantly going around asking everyone where their head was at, who they wanted to talk to, gathering information like he was running some kind of intelligence operation. But here's the thing, Ace wasn't giving any information back. He was collecting intel without sharing his own moves. Charlie said once he noticed this pattern, he realized he needed to keep his cards close to his chest. He identified the manipulation and adjusted accordingly. And when Charlie said this at the reunion, guess what Ace did? Nothing. He didn't defend himself, he didn't argue back, he just sat there quietly. Charlie clocked Nicolandria's two biggest critics in one night, and neither of them had a response. She didn't even have to say a word. She just sat there looking gorgeous while Charlie handled the business for her. That's what real support looks like. Ace knows who to mess with. He's the type who picks his battles carefully. He'll run his mouth with people he thinks won't push back, but when someone like Charlie speaks up, silence. When Charlie talks, Ace shuts his mouth real quick. Now, people want to call Charlie problematic because of his politics, but where are the receipts? Show me the evidence. Show me the posts, the comments, the actual behavior that proves he's hateful. Because I'm looking at his actions, and all I see is someone who's been respectful and supportive. If you want me to dislike Charlie, you need to bring facts, cold, hard evidence, screenshots, videos, something concrete. Until then, I'm judging him based on what I can see, which is a guy who stood up for Nicolandria when she needed it and continues to show her respect. Before we continue exposing who's really real and who's really fake, do me a favor and smash that subscribe button. I promise I'll keep calling out the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. Plus, your support means I can keep making these videos without having to, get a real job or something. Help a creator out. Now, let's talk about Austin, because this is where things get even more interesting. Austin also gets labeled as problematic online for the same political reasons as Charlie. People found out how he voted and immediately decided he must be a terrible person. But once again, let's look at the actual evidence of how he treats Nicolandria. Austin is a blue-collar worker. He's not a model or a dancer or an athlete like most of the other guys on Love Island. He comes from a completely different background. And yeah, there was definitely targeted political messaging toward working-class voters leading up to the election. That's well documented. But Austin has actively tried to address the rumors about him. He's said multiple times that he has deep respect for Nicolandria. He's talked about their friendship in interviews, and at this event, you can see it on his face. There's a photo of Austin with Nicolandria at the party, and his expression says everything. His eyes are closed, his hand is on her shoulder, actually touching her shoulder, and he looks completely at peace. He looks genuinely happy to see her. This isn't a forced smile for a photo op. This is real joy at being in her presence. He's got this look on his face like, oh my God, it's so good to see you. Like he missed her, like he's proud of her, like he's happy she's thriving. That's what genuine friendship looks like. That's the face of someone who actually cares. Austin went on interviews after Love Island and called Nicolandria an awesome woman. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. He said she's an awesome, awesome, awesome woman. He talked about how she has this ability to make people open up, how she's understanding, how she gives great advice. He said they had so many conversations in the villa that didn't make it to air. They were constantly checking in on each other, making sure the other was okay. He said Nicolandria was the one who told the other guys to make him feel welcome when he first arrived. She was going around vouching for him before he even had a chance to prove himself. That's the kind of friend she was to him, and he clearly hasn't forgotten it. He's not perfect, not by a long shot. Austin has plenty of flaws, and I'm not trying to put him on a pedestal. But the friendship he built with Nicolandria, that appears to be genuine. And here's the wild part. Austin might actually be the realest friend Nicolandria had in that villa. Think about that for a second. The guy everyone said would be problematic might be the most loyal person from her season. Meanwhile, people she thought were her friends ended up turning on her after the show. You can't judge people based on politics alone. Political beliefs are one small aspect of someone's personality. They don't tell you everything about a person's character, their capacity for friendship, or how they treat others. And this situation proves it. Look at that photo again. Austin standing next to Nicolandria with his arm around her, genuinely happy. That's not fake. You can't manufacture that kind of warmth for a photo. Now, let's talk about something that's gonna make some people uncomfortable, but it needs to be said. There's a very specific difference in how certain people hug Nicolandria, and it reveals everything. We've seen Austin's hug. We've seen Charlie's hug. Warm, genuine, full contact, real affection. Now let's compare that to Taylor. There's a clip of Taylor hugging Nicolandria, and I need you to pay close attention to his hands. When he puts his arm around her, his hand is balled up in a fist. He's not actually touching her with his palm. He's created this barrier where he's technically hugging her, but not really making contact. Look at his face in that hug. There's no smile, there's no warmth. It's stiff and awkward, and you can feel the discomfort through the screen. Compare that to Austin, who has a genuine smile every time he hugs her. Compare it to Charlie, who gave her 2 separate hugs in one conversation. The body language doesn't lie. Taylor already admitted he was never attracted to Nicolandria. He said it himself. He was entertaining her to stay in the villa, using her as a strategy piece while he waited for someone else. And you could see it in every interaction they had. When she talked to him, he barely made eye contact. He was distant, cold, just going through the motions. Anyone with eyes could see he wasn't interested, but he kept her on the hook anyway. I don't like pointing this stuff out because it's actually painful to break down how someone was mistreated. But people on the internet are trying to rewrite history. They're trying to say Taylor wasn't that bad, that he did like her but just liked someone else more. That's not what happened. He used her, and the evidence is clear. Meanwhile, Austin, who everyone calls problematic, is out here giving real hugs with real smiles, touching her shoulder without hesitation, speaking highly of her in every interview. The contrast couldn't be more obvious. Let me tell you about one more person who showed up correctly, and that's Jeremiah. Jeremiah is someone else people tried to create a narrative about. There were whispers, assumptions, judgments based on appearance and background. But when you look at how he actually treats Nicolandria, it's nothing but respectful. At the event, Jeremiah greeted her warmly. In interviews, he refers to her as "my girl" in the friendship sense, which is completely appropriate and respectful. He's never used language that diminishes her or makes her seem less than. He treats her like a valued friend, and you can tell their connection is genuine. Jeremiah didn't have to go out of his way to support Nicolandria. He could have stayed neutral, kept his distance, avoided any potential drama. But he didn't. He showed up, and he continues to show up. The pattern here is impossible to ignore. The three people who get the most criticism online, Chelley, Austin, and Jeremiah, are the same three people who have consistently treated Nicolandria with the most respect. Meanwhile, people who should have been her day ones, people who looked like they'd have her back, ended up being the ones who disappointed her. Ace and Taylor both came into that villa and treated Nicolandria like she was disposable. She was part of their strategy, someone they could use and discard when convenient. And after the show, they've continued to show a lack of respect. In interviews, they've used language that diminishes her. Ace called her his dog multiple times. Now, some people want to say that's just slang for friend, that it's what young people say. But here's the thing, Ace doesn't call anyone else that. He calls other people from the show cool or uses other terms. But apparently, Nicolandria is a dog. Taylor did the same thing, used that same term. And it's wild because they have never referred to any other person from their season that way. Not Iris, not Sierra, not anyone else, just Nicolandria. If you don't understand why that's problematic, why calling a woman an animal is disrespectful, I can't help you. That's basic respect, and the fact that they chose that specific word for her specifically is telling. Compare that to how Jeremiah refers to her. My girl. Simple, respectful, appropriate. He managed to convey friendship without dehumanizing language. It's not complicated. The math isn't mathing here. The people who were supposed to treat her right treated her the worst. The people everyone said would be problematic have been nothing but supportive. Something's not adding up, and it's time we acknowledge it. Ace and Taylor seem genuinely bothered by how much love Nicolandria gets. In the villa, she was supposed to be a side character in their story. She was supposed to be someone they could manipulate and move around like a chess piece. She wasn't supposed to become the main character. But that's exactly what happened. Nicolandria became the fan favorite. She's the one with the sponsorships, the one with the events, the one everyone's rooting for. And you can tell it eats them up inside. Why is she the famous one? Why does she have the opportunities? Because she has the it factor. She's genuine, she's likable, she's real. People connected with her because she wasn't playing games. She was just being herself, and that authenticity resonated with viewers. Meanwhile, Ace and Taylor were so busy strategizing and manipulating that they forgot people can see through that stuff. Audiences aren't dumb. We watched the show. We saw how they moved. And now they're mad that their gameplay backfired while Nicolandria's authenticity paid off. Here's what this whole situation really reveals. We need to stop judging people based on assumptions and start looking at actions. We've been doing it backward. Everyone assumed Chelley, Austin, and Jeremiah would be problematic based on various factors that have nothing to do with their character. Meanwhile, we assumed other people would be supportive based on surface-level connections, and we were wrong on both counts. The reality is that people are complex. You can't put someone in a box based on one aspect of who they are. Political beliefs, background, appearance, none of that tells you how someone will treat another person. Actions do, behavior does, consistency does. Chelley stood up for Nicolandria at the reunion when he didn't have to. Austin built a genuine friendship with her and continues to speak highly of her. Jeremiah shows her respect in every interaction. These are facts based on observable behavior. Compare that to people who looked like they'd be her allies but turned out to be her biggest problems. Ace manipulating situations behind the scenes, Taylor using her to stay in the villa, others switching up after the show ended. The Huda Beauty event crystallized all of this. When you take away the cameras, when you remove the obligation to interact, who actually shows up for Nicolandria? Who's genuinely happy to see her thriving? The answer surprised a lot of people, but it shouldn't have. I'm not trying to put anyone on a pedestal just for treating another person with basic respect. That should be the standard, not the exception. But I am trying to show the contrast between perception and reality, between who we thought people were and who they actually are. This whole situation with Love Island Season 7 has been a masterclass in not judging books by their covers. The dating show drama exposed way more than just romantic connections. It showed us who has character and who just plays one on TV. Nicolandria deserves friends who actually have her back. She deserves people who celebrate her success instead of being bitter about it. And from what I can see, Chelley, Austin, and Jeremiah are doing exactly that, while others are doing the opposite. So here's my challenge to everyone watching. Stop making assumptions. Stop deciding who someone is based on one piece of information. Look at the full picture. Look at patterns of behavior over time. Look at who shows up when it matters.
The people we wrote off might surprise us. The people we trusted might disappoint us. But the truth always comes out eventually, and in this case, that Huda Beauty event showed us exactly who's real and who's been playing games. All right, we've reached the end of this deep dive, and honestly, this took way longer to put together than the runtime of the video. Editing is no joke, people. If you made it this far and you enjoyed the commentary, hit that subscribe button one more time. Or for the first time if you forgot earlier, no judgment, well, maybe a little judgment, and smash that like button so the algorithm gods smile upon me. Drop a comment letting me know your thoughts, because I genuinely want to hear them. Do you agree? Disagree? Think I'm completely off base? Let's talk about it. At the end of the day, this whole situation taught us something valuable. Actions matter more than anything else. Chelley, Austin, and Jeremiah showed up for Nicolandria in real ways, despite what people assumed about them. Meanwhile, others who should have been solid turned out to be anything but. The Huda Beauty event wasn't just a party. It was a revelation about who's really who in this Love Island saga. And now we all know exactly where everyone stands. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.